Hey everyone, welcome back in. It's another episode of Bleav in Vikings for today, Thursday, January 2nd, and I'm your host, Mike Wobschall, with you for the next 30 or 40 minutes or so, and excited to preview this Minnesota Vikings-Detroit Lions game. To help me do that is a really special guest, someone I'm very excited to meet and to chat with. It's former Detroit Lions safety Glover Quin. We're going to bring him in a minute, but first, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC, head to BetOnline today. And don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online. The game starts here. Glover, welcome in, man. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to chat with you. I watched you play for the Texans and the Lions. We played against you so many times when I was a member of the Vikings as a staff member, and now we're sitting here chatting Vikings-Lions after we're both out of the game, and it's a lot of fun. So thanks for being here.
Man, thanks for having me. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is going to be awesome, just like this game's going to be awesome. And we're going to talk about some of the factors, and we'll preview the game here in a minute. But we were chatting before we started recording just about your experience as a member of the Lions playing against the Vikings. And I was just letting you know, I was passing around some flowers to you, letting you know that going against you, I think it was 12 times as when I was on staff with the Vikings, we played against you and Matthew Stafford and some of your other teammates. You made all the dances. You never missed a game against the Vikings. I was looking at your game logs. You were around the ball, man, all the time. You had 3 picks against the Vikings. You played in the Metrodome. You played at TCF Bank Stadium. You played at US. You were everywhere, man. I mean, it was like you were almost on our team. We saw you so much.
Yeah, man. It was incredible, man. I really enjoyed playing in Minnesota. Every stadium. I didn't really we played one game in the Dome and we got beat. So I can't say I had a great experience in the Dome, but it was kind of cool to get to play in the last game in the Dome. And then the games at University of Minnesota, that was different because it was outside and it's Minnesota, but it was just all a great experience. You know what I'm saying? I had a great time. US Bank Stadium was probably one of the most fun stadiums that I played again in. The Skull chant, I used to love it. It was awesome. I thought the fans there were awesome. They were nice, but they were fans. They did it the right way. They cheered on their team. I never personally experienced any hate stuff or weird, rude kind of comments or things like that from the Vikings fan. It was always love, but they were Vikings fans and you understood that, and it was fun. I can say that. I made some plays against the Vikings. My first game in Detroit was against the Vikings. Adrian Peterson runs for a touchdown on the first play of the game, but then I ended the game with an interception, and that was pretty cool. And then, my second season in Detroit, had had 2 interceptions against the Vikings that year. So man, it was just some great epic battles, man. I had another forced fumble against Adam Thielen later in my career to end the game against Minnesota. So, I had a great time. We had some great epic games, man. It was a lot of fun. And so, for them to be having this game this week against the Vikings, I think it's a great thing for the division. I think it's a great thing for both franchises, and I'm excited for the game.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. And let's talk about it, man. I look at at this group that the Lions have, especially on your side of the ball, Glover, on defense. When you're just battling through adversity and injury like this, your mind and your heart is with the guys who can't make it, right? Because they're hurt and it's not their fault. But the guys who are making it and who are there, it's just got to be galvanizing, right? It's just guys going down left and right, but it's us and we're here and we're still going. You'd rather be full strength, but there's something to be said when just everything goes wrong. I think it galvanizes you in a way. you know?
No question, and that's why that's why teams like playing on the road, because when you play
Yeah.
on the road and the Lions haven't lost on the road all season, right? When you play on the road, you kind of develop this mentality where it's really just you against everybody. And yeah,
Mhm.
you have fans that come to the away games, and so you're not there alone, but you just have this mentality that you're going into somebody else's house and it's you against everybody, right? And so I think when the Lions started losing players defensively, guys going down, Aiden going down, Aleem McNeil going down, Carlton Davis going down, Alex
Yeah.
Anzalone going down, Malcolm Rodriguez going down, Marcus Davenport. Like, they started losing so many guys, and so everybody started to write them off defensively. And so I think it creates a chip on your shoulder amongst the guys that are going out there to battle. And the group that's kind of been healthy, has been the secondary. You know what I'm saying? The corner Terry on, I think he missed a game or two early in the season. And obviously they lost Carlton Davis. But the two safeties have been there pretty much the whole season. Arnold has been there. Armstead has been there. I mean, Mick Robinson has been there. So they've been pretty steady on the back end.
Mhm.
And those guys on the front have just been getting out to the quarterback. They haven't had as much pressure, without Aiden and some of those guys, but they've done enough. Aaron Glenn has done a great job of scheming up some blitzes and things like that. And they've held their own, but I think they have, like you said, they've galvanized and they've kind of formed this group of guys that, even though they're 14-2 right now, they just got a chip on their shoulder, because I don't think people believe in them from a defensive standpoint, because they've had so many injuries, and they're going out there and playing pretty good right now.
If you let's stick with the Lions defense here before this is a big offense game. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I know I'm talking to a former safety who was balling out for almost a decade, but I mean, there's going to be points in this game, I think, Glover. But let's talk defense for a little bit longer here. If someone was living in outer space or under a rock for this season and just came right now to watch this game, and they said to me, "Hey, tell me about the Vikings defense," this is what I would say. I'd say they got a rock star defensive coordinator in Brian Flores, who's on fire right now as a play caller. And they're elite against the run. They always take the ball away once or twice a game, and the quarterback feels like he's under pressure even when he's not. Those are the three things I would say define the Vikings defense. How would you answer that for Detroit? What are the defining characteristics of this Lions defense that it never wavers week in and week out? This is what you see.
Well, I would say you're going to have a unit that's going to feel like you're playing against 22 guys, because they have 11 guys, but they play really hard. They're always flying around to the football. And I would say their secondary is going to be competitively consistent, and they're going to probably turn the ball over. I mean, Kirby Joseph is leading the league with interceptions right now at 9. Brian Branch, I think their secondary is a strong point. And that would be it. I don't think you're going to see, they don't have that superstar up front since Aiden Hutchinson went out, but they, as a group, as a collective front seven, they play really hard. They play really fast. And I think they got some good young guys in there that are hungry. And so I think you're going to see, like I would say it's going to feel like there's more than 11 guys out there, because they're going to be playing really hard and they're going to be flying to the football. Depending on the game plan, I think Aaron changes it up a little bit. So I don't know exactly what they're going to do against Minnesota, but I do know that they're going to have to stop Justin Jefferson offensively. And I think the secondary is going to be up for the challenge.
A key member of that secondary, Glover, is Brian Branch. And I went back before our conversation here today, and I watched the first game on TV as it happened, and I probably watched back a few of the all 22 plays right after that, but I went back and watched it again just so I could reference some things in our conversation. Brian Branch, dude, are you kidding me with how good that guy, how young and how good he is? He was all over the field in the first matchup. I believe he's healthy and will be all over the field again. What do you see in Brian Branch, a guy who, I don't know if you would say he plays like you played or not, but you played technically the same position maybe. So how would you tell me about him? What's he like?
Well, I think the first game against Minnesota, I think that was his first game back.
Okay.
I think he had missed the Dallas game or
Mm.
something happened. I can't remember exactly what it was. I know he had got ejected from the Green Bay game. Something happened in Dallas, and I think Minnesota was. I think he missed the Dallas game, and I think Minnesota was his first game back. And he was flying around. He had some
Oh,
incredible plays. Had an incredible interception. I remember.
yep. And he had
You
a
know,
touchdown that got taken away.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays the game, physical. He's not a very big guy, but he's a physical guy. He has good ball skills. And he does a lot for that team, you know what I'm saying? And so I think these last 5 games, probably 4 or 5 games, has been the quietest stretch of his career. And I think he's due because both of those safeties have been quiet the last 4 games. And I had, said some things, called them out on the Bleav in Lions podcast because you need those guys making plays defensively.
Yeah.
And then Kirby Joseph showed up in San Francisco and had 2 big interceptions. And I think Brian Branch is going to show up on national TV Sunday night in the big game, and he's going to make some big plays because, you have certain teams that you just play well against. And he seems to play well against the Minnesota Vikings. So I think, we're going to see everything about him, his versatility, his playmaking ability, and they're going to need it because the Minnesota Viking offense, the wide receiving core that they have, he's going to be needed. And I mean, he's a safety, but he plays the nickel, so he's forced to cover some of these slot receivers that are really good, and he's held up pretty well. But he's definitely going to have a big game. If he doesn't have a big game on Sunday, it could spell trouble for the Lions defense.
The Vikings offense going against that Lions defense, Glover. I don't know. I have a hard time when I break Sam Darnold down. When I look at him, I look at it all different ways. First down, by down, first, second, third, versus pressure, versus no pressure, versus man, versus zone. I don't really. There's nothing that really stands out to me, and I've got a couple of things on Goff that stand out to me that I want to ask you about that we'll get to. But on Darnold, through your eyes, Glover, how do you break him down? How would you attack him? What do you think will happen Sunday night? He's playing as well as we've ever seen him play. And I believe in Sam Darnold, but I don't know how to break him down or how to describe him to someone else. What would you do to him, and what do you expect on Sunday night?
Well, I think both quarterbacks are, in my opinion, just as a football player, as a safety, as a defensive guy, I think both of the quarterbacks are somewhat in the same. Okay. And what I mean is the Lions have lost 2 games this year. Those 2 games, Jared Goff threw the ball over 50 times. I don't know what the stats have been in the games that Minnesota has lost, right? But I don't think the Lions are a team where you can just sit back and say, Jared Goff, go and win us the game.
Okay.
I don't think the Vikings are a team where you can just sit back and say, Sam Darnold, go win us the game. But I think they play very well off of the way the team is playing. Defensive stops, good field position, running game, play action, a couple shots here to Justin Jefferson, key timely throws to the different wide receivers that they have. I think both of those guys do a great job in managing the game well. And if the Vikings defense is playing well, creating turnovers like they've done, getting good field position, and they're able to run the ball a little bit and take some pressure off Sam Darnold, I think he'll be fine. In the same way I feel with the Lions. If the Lions defense can play well, create a couple of turnovers, get some good field position, the run game get going with Jahmyr Gibbs and guys get going, and the sole pressure isn't on Jared Goff that he has to throw the ball 50 plus times, or Sam Darnold has to throw the ball 50 plus times. I think that's why the last game was 29-27 or 29-31 or so. I think they're somewhat in the same type of player. Yes, they have different strengths, different things like that. And I don't really look at all of how they are against zone, how they are against man, how they are against pressure. One thing I do know is Jared Goff doesn't move great. So a lot of times when he gets pressure, I mean, if he sees the pressure and he knows the pressure is coming and he has his reads and they're on the same page, he's going to get rid of the ball. But if he's not going to really be able to escape. He's going to take a sack. And Sam Darnold may be a little more mobile than Jared Goff, but I think it's what for what. If Sam Darnold sees it and he knows where he's going, he can make any throw. He was he was a top pick, wasn't he? Wasn't he the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, he was top. Yeah,
top first round pick.
At least he was top 5 pick.
So he can make all the throws. He has the talent, right? So he can do all those things. But if you don't see it, if it's a little cloudy and he holds the ball and the pressure can get there, I don't think he has, great escapability, but he has a little bit. Yeah. So I think those two guys are somewhat in the same, that you'll be able to tell a lot by how the defense plays, who plays the best defense. You look at the wide receivers, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, 2 Pro Bowl guys. You look at the secondary wide receivers for the Lions, Jamison Williams. The Vikings have I think 2 guys.
Jordan Addison. Yep.
Jordan Addison. And
Hockenson.
And another guy. Well, yeah, obviously Hockenson.
And Jalen Naylor. You're thinking of Jalen Naylor.
Yeah. The tight ends, you got Hockenson, like you said, and they got Laporta. So I think that's going to be, what I'm saying, that's going to even out. You got Jahmyr Gibbs. You got Aaron Jones. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a little more dynamic than Aaron Jones.
He's got more juice.
Yeah, but Aaron Jones is a good runner. He can catch the ball out the backfield. So I think the offenses, I think these 2 teams, is no surprise that both of these teams are 14-2 because they are somewhat in the same. They're built the same way. They play good defense, and they got good offenses. And it's amazing that we get a 14-2 battle of 2 teams, and we get it in Ford Field.
Yeah. That place did not used to be a house of horrors, but it is absolutely a horrific place to go for the opposing team now, man. I mean, that place gets loud, and I've been in there plenty of times when it's been loud. That place can bring it, especially when the team's playing this way. And I thought it was one thing I noticed on the Lions touchdowns in the first matchup, Glover. I thought they did a great job of using motions and shifts, and I think it created some communication problems for the Vikings defense. And what's interesting to me about that is the noise at US Bank Stadium is so loud. Do you think it can you'd rather play with the noise on your side than against it? I'm not saying it's a disadvantage to have the noise, but on defense you have to communicate too, right? So tell me about that. Is it a challenge to communicate on defense when your own crowd is so loud?
It is. Yeah. And, you're hoping in those moments that it's just as hard for them to communicate. And so you really have to be good in your pre-snap disguises so that they can see certain things. And then it's hard for them to communicate the audibles, the changes when you change stuff up. So that's what you're kind of banking on. You're banking on them having a hard time in the huddle, hearing the play call. So then now they're getting out of the huddle late. So they're rushing to the line. They don't have a lot of time to digest what we're doing or showing defensively. And the crowd is going. And so they're just trying to hope that they're on the same page, right? That's what you're hoping for from a defensive standpoint when you play at home. Obviously, they're going to be on the road. And so now the Lions defense is going to have to communicate and do those things. And like I said earlier, the Lions are 14-2, but they're undefeated on the road. That means at home, they've lost 2 games. Great. They've lost 2 games. And in those 2 games, I think it has been because defensively, they couldn't get the stops. They couldn't get the stops early in Tampa, and they couldn't get the stops against Buffalo. And so that put them behind early in the game, which got them out of the game plan. They couldn't run the ball as much with those running backs and opened up the play action game. So that forced Jared Goff to have to throw the ball more and more. And they lost both of those games. They made them good games, but they lost both of those games. And so it's going to be the same thing. defensively, they can't afford to fall behind the same way they fell behind in Minnesota. They can't afford to fall behind 14 points this week.
Yeah. How would you approach whether or not to blitz a certain quarterback? How did you guys talk about that?
Well, see, some of those guys, you got to understand or know the tendencies of the offenses and how you can blitz, what you can blitz, because certain blitzes, these quarterbacks are smart, these wide receivers are smart, the offensive coordinators are smart. So sometimes you blitz and you put the guys in bad situations by blitzing. Because when you blitz, you take an extra guy out of coverage. And so unless the blitz get home, you're forcing the quarterback to throw the ball quickly. But yeah, the defenders are at a disadvantage. I don't love man blitzing.
Yeah.
That's just me as a safety, as a defensive back, because I like interceptions. And to catch interceptions, you need to see the ball come out. A lot of times you're playing man-to-man and you're looking at the man, you never see the ball. I like to see the ball. So I'm more of a zone blitzer guy so that we're blitzing him, but we also got eyes on him. So when he do make a quick pass, we can see it and we can break on it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot of defensive coordinators don't necessarily like zone blitzing because if you're doing from a fire zone standpoint, you're having to drop defensive ends out in the coverage, and they don't do that all the time. So they don't really like to do that. And when you zone blitz, there's holes. And so these offenses are smart. These receivers, they see the blitz, they stop, they turn around in the zone, quarterback throwing the ball right now, and now they got space to run. So defensive coordinators, they like to blitz and go man blitz, so at least we got a body on the body, so the quarterback can't just raise up and throw the ball because there's somebody on everybody.
Yeah.
I like zone blitzing.
Yeah.
That's me. And so it's the cat and mouse game. It's a cat and mouse game. Like I say, a lot of times with these two quarterbacks, they're not very mobile, especially Jared Goff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they get more man blitzes so that he can't just raise up and throw the ball to open guys. You got guys on guys, and that gives the pressure time to get there, knowing that Jared Goff doesn't escape great. Because if you're playing against some of these, agile quarterbacks and you man blitz them, once the quarterback eludes the blitz, he's gone because everybody's chasing the wide receivers. Yeah. Nobody even sees the quarterback break out. You don't have anybody in the middle of the field. The middle safety is the last line, is the next guy that they see. And so you don't want to really do that. You want to zone blitz those guys to try to get them to throw the ball quickly and have eyes on the ball so you can see it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get more man blitzing from both of these teams. I know the Lions love to play man-to-man. Brian Flores love to play man-to-man. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get a lot of man blitzing to force these quarterbacks to try to hold on to the ball so that the blitz can get there.
Interesting. Love that. That's a great breakdown. The Vikings blitz on second down 40% of the time, Glover, and they were at that rate against the Lions in week 7, and Goff eviscerated it. He was 6 of 6 on second down blitzes. And so as I break these games down, I try and look at stuff that worked and stuff that didn't. And just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean they won't try it again. They might look at it and say, those were our errors, unforced errors that we made. We can execute it better this time. We're going to keep doing it. But then there are some other things where it's like, yeah, we tried that the first time and it did not work. We're not doing that again. I suspect that the blitz rate will drop a little bit against Goff based on what happened in the first game, but we shall see. Tell me about this Lions offensive line, because you pointed out some of the similarities and how these two teams are alike. The wide receiver core, the quarterbacks are alike. I think this is an area where the Lions have a distinct advantage over the Vikings. When you just compare the two offensive lines, the Lions is better. But B, when you compare the Lions offensive line against what they will be facing, the Vikings defensive front, I think that's an advantage for Detroit as well. And so I'm wondering how Detroit can leverage this, both protecting Jared Goff in the pass game, but also can they crack this Vikings run defense with this really tough Lions offensive line? Tell me about that group.
Well, I think the offensive line is an incredible group from Taylor Decker, who's been there for a long time. Taylor was there when I was there.
Mm,
Frank Ragnow was there when I was there. So those guys have been there. Graham Glasgow, Dan Skipper, those guys on that left side of the line, they've been there
yeah.
since I was there. I never played with Panay Sewell, but he's been obviously a Pro Bowl, all-pro type of guy, phenomenal player. So that O-line, it's a very, very, very strong group,
Yeah.
and they know it. They pass block pretty well. They run block great. They're athletic. They are the strength, and that's why the Lions can't afford to get behind the way that they did last time, because the Vikings, Brian Flores, he likes to blitz. He likes to put a lot of guys up on the ball, some guys blitzing, some guys popping out,
Yeah.
try to confuse you. When you get behind early in the game and now you're in a pass mode, it's very difficult. If the game is close or the lines are ahead, now you can come straight downhill and run at those guys. So when you got guys all lined up, Jahmyr Gibbs just has to pop one line of defense. All these other guys doesn't matter. You popping D lineman out, that's perfect, right? So the first game, the Lions got behind early. So now the whole defensive playbook is open for Brian Flores, right? The Lions can't afford for that to happen. And you talked about the blitzing on second down, right? Second down, to me, it's not a great down to blitz zone. That's just me. That's my preference. I'm a first down blitzer because most teams, especially like the Lions, most teams do not really go just straight drop back pass on first down. Sometimes they do. Most of the time, it's going to be run or play action on first down. So when you blitzing, you're bringing pressure against the run to stop them if they hand it off. And then if you do play action, those are longer developing plays. Now we got pressure coming against the play action. So we're going to force your hand on first down. Second down is one of those downs where the offense is like, okay, well, if it's second and short, we're probably taking a shot or doing something because we got third down that we feel like we can get anything 5 or less, right?
Yep.
If it's second and long, they're throwing screens, they're throwing quick passes to try to get back on track, right? They're trying to get it from 2nd and 15 to 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. So you're going to see screens, you're going to see quick passes. They're not trying to get the whole 15 yards. They just want to get back on track. So when you blitz and they throw it a screen into a blitz, you're outnumbered. All it takes is one missed tackle and it's a touchdown. If you try to if you try to blitz and they hit a quick slant, that guy better make the tackle or it's a touchdown, right? And so when you do those things on second down, I'd like to just play normal defense on second down. Let's put some pressure on those guys on first down and make them show their hand. And then third down, we'll see how it go. But to not blitz on first down, now you give the Lions the opportunity to run the ball. You give the Lions the opportunity to play action pass. And now they're in second and favorable situations. When you blitz us now, I mean, we got our whole playbook open for you. And so, but what happens is, like I said, the Lions got behind early in the game. So the run game wasn't really a factor. They were in throwing mode for the most part. And so that could have played a part in the why he was blitzing a lot, because he knew they were going to throw the ball. It'll be interesting to see how the game plays out. Do the Lions get behind early? Do the Vikings get behind early? Or is it a stalemate early? And if it's a stalemate early, now you're going to really see the prowess of Ben Johnson as an offensive coordinator against Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator.
You know, another differentiator in this, Glover, I think, is going to be, each team's going to throw some punches and land them. No one's going into this thing thinking, let's throw a perfect game here, right? I mean, of course, that's what you design it and you're trying for, but that's not the expectation. I think what's going to tip the scales here is when that mistake is made, can the other team take advantage of it, right? If Brian Branch picks a ball off and gives Jared Goff the ball on the 30-yard line, can the Lions punch that in right away and get an advantage there and vice versa? Is that something that's talked about in team meetings is like, hey, what are we going to do with these mistakes? We get a tip ball at the line of scrimmage. We have to come down with that interception, guys. If they give us that mistake, we got to capitalize. This is not a game where there's a big margin of error, right?
Right. And that's a given. You know, you go into certain games and obviously, like I said, this is all NFL football. So all these teams are good.
Yeah.
We all understand that. But you go into certain games feeling like you have a little cushion either way, right? We're a better team than them. No, we don't want to go out and just play bad. And this is not stuff that you're telling your team, but this is probably coaches meeting talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a turnover, you know, we feel like we can stop their defense or their offense in the red zone. So if we hold them to a field goal, we'll be okay, right?
Yep.
Then you have some games where you're like, hey, we got to almost play perfect. We can't afford to do this or do that, right? I think this is one of those games where you're saying the team that makes the least amount of mistakes typically wins the game, right? That's going to be more true this game.
Yeah,
the team that makes the least amount of mistakes in all aspects of the game, from a protection standpoint, from a communication standpoint, from a catching the ball standpoint, from a pre-snap penalty standpoint, from a special teams, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes, because the teams are so evenly matched. Like you say, if a ball gets tipped up in the air, you have to come down with that ball. You can't give them an opportunity to get another play. They make a mistake, you have to make them pay. And if you go back and watch the game, once it's said and done, regardless of who wins, watch the team that made the most out of the mistakes.
Yeah.
From any given thing. If you have illegal contact on third down and you give them a first down, see how that drive turns out. Did they score or did they not? See, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win because it's so evenly matched. It's so evenly matched. See who tackles the best, who missed the most tackles, who don't. Those are going to be the little things. It's not going to be, like you say, it's not going to be, so one-sided. At least I don't think so. It's going to be a close game, and the team that executes the best is going to be the team that wins.
That's what I think too. And there are some matchups that are just a little more lopsided, and it's like, you're playing, the Bears are having a down year, right? Panthers are having a down year, and it's like, God, we make a few more mistakes than we normally make. We can still beat those guys.
Right.
You can't do that against the Lions or the Vikings. No. So I'm with you totally on that. Last thing before we say what we think is going to happen in the game, I wanted to ask you about fourth downs and Dan Campbell. I know that this is something that you guys in Lions Nation have had to talk a lot about. And I just kind of wanted to say that, and you'll have a perspective on this because you played defense. The one thing I'll say, I get it that there is, maybe some risk. I say risk lightly because I'm not really sure what's actually risky. Going for it on 4th and 2 or punting on 4th and 2. Some people would say it's riskier to punt and give the other team the ball. But the thing about it is, as a defender, Glover, if you're going against Dan Campbell, you have to assume you're defending all 4 downs. Against most other teams in the NFL, you're defending 3 downs. You go against Detroit, you got to defend 4 downs against that team.
Yeah, and the thing about it, they have the offense, the perfect offense to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of teams don't have the perfect. They have the perfect offense. And what I mean is, if they're in 4th and 2, can you imagine trying to come up with something as a defensive coordinator to stop that? They go shotgun, you thinking pass, and they hand it off to Jahmyr Gibbs behind the big defensive line. The big offensive line. He can get 2 yards. They go shotgun and spread it out, and you thinking run. They got one-on-one matchups they can win on the outside. Amon-Ra St. Brown is very difficult to stop for a 2-yard gain. Sam Laporta can get open. Then they can throw the ball to Jahmyr out the backfield. Like, they got so many weapons that it's very difficult to stop them in a 4th and short situation. And I think Dan Campbell knows that. He understands that, and he trusts those guys that they can execute in those situations. Jared Goff is not going to get overwhelmed. Any of those things, he's going to be paused. He's going to execute. I mean, anytime you can call a stumble bum where you're telling him to fake like he's going to fall, and you can execute those things, all the hook and ladders that they do, they feel that they can execute. They trust those guys offensively. So if it's anything 4th and 3rd, 3 or 4 or less, 5, I would expect Dan Campbell to go for it. You're at home. You're going to force to win the game. You're not hoping to win the game. You're going out to win the game. And the offenses nowadays are so good that you can have a good defense, but you give these guys the ball. When you got so much to defend, they're going to figure out a way to get stuff. And I would just rather not put them on the field.
Yeah.
I would rather not put my defense on the field if I can win the game offensively. And so I'm going to make you defend 4 downs, because that plays a lot into the play calling offensively and the play calling defensively.
Totally. And there's other like side benefits too, Glover. It's like if this is your philosophy, you're practicing short yardage more, you're practicing 4th downs more, you're practicing your 2-point plays more. That makes you sharper in those situations on offense and on defense, because your defense is out there practicing in those situations too. I love the mindset. I think it's a shift from what is traditional, but I don't think that makes it riskier or wrong. I think in a lot of ways, it's the direction football is going, and there's just something to be said for on 4th and 2 late in the game going for it. It's with 3.5 minutes left, you can make 4th and 2 a game-winning play and shorten the game by converting that, and instead of giving the ball to the other team, and now you've got to try and defend them from making the game-winning play. So it's a part of the Lions profile that I appreciate and I like, and I look forward to watching it. So I'm sure it will factor into the game on Sunday night. There's going to be a 4th down conversion or a fake punt or a fake field goal. Something is going to happen. So I'm excited for that. You can be as specific or general as you'd like. But tell me what you expect to happen in the game from a game flow standpoint, an outcome standpoint. Tell me what you're expecting to see on Sunday night.
Well, I will tell you what I hope to see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of the game, and I definitely respect the game, and so I would love to really see a good football game. Mm-hmm. This game is being played inside, so we're not going to have to deal with the elements in January. It's 2 evenly matched teams. I really hope that they showcase the NFL in a way that it should be showcased. Great football being played. Nothing dirty, nothing cheap, just great teams playing the game the right way. I think it's going to be some good defense. I think it's going to be some good offense. I think it's going to be 2 plays that makes the difference. I don't know who's going to make them. Mm-hmm. It's going to be 2 plays. Somebody's going to have to make a big play offensively. Somebody's going to have to make a big play defensively. Now, what I hope happened is the Lions come out and they run away with this thing, right?
Yeah.
The Lions come out and they play well at home. They show that they are a championship team. They show that they're poised and primed to make a Super Bowl run. That's what I hope happens. Yeah. But what I think realistically is going to happen, I think it's going to be a back and forth game. I think you're going to see some great offense, some great defense. You're going to see a great football game. When I say a great football game, I'm saying a great football game for the fans. It's going to be entertaining. It's not going to be a 6-3 football game.
No.
But I don't think it's going to be a 51-45 football game. I think it's going to be exactly how it was last game, 29-31, 34-31, 28-30. Like, I think it's going to be right in that mid-grade. They're going to score some points. We're going to score some points. But you're going to have some good defensive plays. You're going to have some good special teams plays. And somebody is going to have to make a play. It's either going to have to be a defender making a play against Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to be Jameson Williams making a big play, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones making a big play.
What if it's Harrison
Gibbs
Smith?
Smith.
How about your guy Harrison Smith, huh?
Harry's been hanging around for a long time. He's been hanging around for a long time.
Yeah, he
right?
is.
And games like this is when that veteran leadership, that presence,
Mm-hmm.
he's not the same Harry as he used to be, but he's still out there and he's still making plays.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's going to come down to that. And I'll be interested to see who makes the play. Who makes the plays? Who stands up in the moment and says, I want to be the reason why we are the number 1 seed and why we run the North. Who's it going to be? I'll be and both team has a ton of guys that can be that guy. Both teams, from the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Both teams have a ton of guys who can be that guy. I'm going to have my popcorn ready.
Me too, man.
I'm going Lions win. Going Lions win at home, number 1 seed. The Super Bowl goes through Detroit. Lions win 38-35.
Oh, man, I love it. See, that's the type of game I'm expecting too, Glover. It's going to be one of those where there's a lot of points, but the defense isn't embarrassing, and sometimes the points happen because of the defense.
Right.
Like a defensive touchdown or an interception returned to the 10, so it's a quick, easy score. I totally see that here. This is going to be a well-played, crisp, sharp, fun game. It's not going to be sloppy. There's not going to be a ton of mistakes. And it's going to be one of those where it's like, the team with the ball last one. Right. I think it's 38-35 too, 35-32, 35-31. It's something up there that's respectable from a defensive standpoint, but explosive on offense. And this is why the NFL put it on Sunday Night Football. I mean, this is what they expect too, man. It's really hard to pick against Detroit in this situation because as the football fan, the NFL fan, I love that Detroit is here. And it's not like, oh, I feel happy for those little guys in Detroit. It's not that at all. It is that they have earned it, they deserve it, and I love the way they play. And I think they can win the Super Bowl. So it's really hard to pick against Detroit. The Vikings, I think, are in absolute top form. They are ascending. I think their ascension will continue on Sunday night, and I think they could be on top of that 35-32 type of outcome. But I'm going to send you a text on Sunday night. It's going to be one name. It's going to be as the guy who made the game-winning play, and then we'll laugh about it. All right.
and what's great is both of these teams are 14-2.
Yeah.
We'll get this matchup again in 2 weeks. However it plays out.
Yeah.
One of them's going to be the 5. One of them's going to be the 1. Yeah. And I can see either one of these teams winning the first round playoff game.
Yep.
And having to play against each other week 2 in the playoffs.
Well,
so
I'd be happy to return this favor and hop on Bleav in Lions, because you do believe in Lions, right? You do it once a week or twice a week. What do you do?
Yes, we did generally do it once a week.
Once a week?
But it could be twice.
What day do you record usually?
It just depends on the game and kind of how the schedule plays out.
Okay. Did you guys
but we definitely get you on.
Oh, yeah, I would love to do it. Did you guys do your episode this week yet?
No, I didn't, because I traveled out of town and we played on Monday. We played on Monday night.
Oh, that's right.
And so I was in Mississippi on Tuesday and I traveled back home Wednesday. And so today is the first day I'm actually hopping back on. So
all right, good.
We didn't do an episode this week.
Yeah, well, all joking aside, always willing to help you out however I can. Even if you just need some information on the team, you send me a message, I'll respond. Definitely a thrill and an honor for me to be able to talk to you and have you on, man. I love your expertise and I loved watching you play, even though you beat us a couple times.
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. Anytime.
All right. Take care, man. Good luck to the Lions. Can't wait to watch a fun game, and we'll connect afterwards. All right.
Alrighty.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Bleav in Vikings, everyone. We thank you for watching and encourage you to like, follow, and subscribe both Bleav in Vikings and Bleav in Lions. You can find both shows on all the major podcasting platforms and also on YouTube. On behalf of Glover Quin, this is Wobby signing off for now. Until next time, everybody, keep believing.